Alright, this is AL-BINO again. And my camera's giving me, or my phone's giving me fits. It's okay. So, anyways, this is going to be my third weekly video. My last one was about how I had very strong suspicions that this was an inside job on Saturday. And I went through the whole logistics or the whole layout as to why, because of, the building being insecure, and, the fact that the guy wasn't an expert shot, but he was a decent shot because he was using iron scopes, and that shot is a trained shot for basic rifle marksmanship in the military, and the fact that he almost had a headshot if it were not for the target moving at the very last microsecond, that he was actually proficient at this, okay? The more we learn, the more my opinion is that this was an inside job. So let's start with the mayor of Bethel Park, Pennsylvania. Actually, no. We're going to start with the Secret Service. So, before the event, a good portion of Donald Trump's Secret Service detail was stood down and replaced with temporaries. That's one. Two, because of the fact that his team was, or a good portion of his team was stood down. He was backfilled, or his team was backfilled mostly by local law enforcement, including the two counter snipers on the barn behind him. Those are city cops. Number three, the building that the individual, the shooter, was on actually had an office space in it that was populated by some of the law enforcement agents that were working the venue. So they actually had a station there, probably a field station, but still, they were inside the building. They could hear somebody up top. Number five, or what was it? 3 or 4 next. We'll just say next, okay? Still a little tired, but next. The shooter was observed a few hours before the actual event by law enforcement who were canvassing the site with a rangefinder and a ladder. So he went and put a ladder up against the building and was carrying a rangefinder several hours before the event, and this was witnessed by local law enforcement. Next, Secret Service chief in Washington, D.C. has stated that has given the excuse that the reason why they were told not to emplace another counter sniper or personnel on the building from which the shooter was shooting was because the angle of the roof was too steep. Never mind the fact that moderately trained, semi-amateur riflemen with iron sights managed to climb up that roof, go over the peak of that roof, or position himself on the peak of that roof in a prone position, and if it wasn't for his target slightly turning his head as the bullet was going by, he would have hit his target with iron sights from 150 yards. Head target. Better than A little bit more difficult than center mass, but still. Okay? So he was a semi-proficient shooter. To the level of somebody who has just completed basic training as a Marine or as a U.S. Army soldier. Maybe slightly less. Okay? So they saw him with the rangefinder and a ladder before. Next. What's next? I've just been picking up stuff all day because I've been doing nothing but windshield time listening to the news. All right. Next. The cop had climbed the ladder that the shooter had in place several hours before, that they saw was there even before he climbed up there himself to do the deed. The cop had climbed the ladder before that individual fired, climbed up the ladder, peeked over the top of the ladder. The individual noticed him, flashed him with his rifle, and then the cop got down. The individual resighted his target and began firing immediately thereafter. Cop did not radio anything, nothing. Here's one. The mayor of Bethel Park, Pennsylvania, John Allen, he is a deep blue, extreme leftist Democrat. Next, the shooter, while he was in high school, enrolled apparently in a marksman class at some point in time while he was in school. I'm going to make this very, very simple for all of you. Just like Joe Biden cut loose his number 2, or Joe Biden's administration, because I don't think he even knows what's going on. Just like the Joe Biden administration cut loose his number 2 at the DOJ and sent him to the Southern District of New York. Actually, I'm sorry, to the New York DA, Alan Bragg, to prosecute Donald Trump, specifically at a local level. Even though we don't have the proof, let me tell you this much. Bethel Park's a small town. That kid's parents are therapists, they're doctors in that town. They're prominent people in that town. And seatbelt, rough highway. This kid was known. This is a setup. 100% setup. From federal all the way down to the state. All the way down. This is why a good portion of Trump's team was pulled off right before the event and replaced with temporaries. This is why a short-staffed Secret Service, relying on local police, the local police left everything full of holes. This is why the local police, who were responsible for the perimeter security, allowed this young man to conduct exactly what he was conducting. Next, tell me of any 20-year-old, no matter how nerdy, has zero social media presence. Now, I personally don't use Facebook. I don't like it. And I'm off and on Instagram, but I'm talking to you on YouTube. I have an X profile. I don't use it very much because I work a lot. You know? But I'm almost 50 years old. I'm 48 years old. I really don't need a social media presence, but I still have a footprint. I'm on locals. Actually, I have a fairly large footprint, even though I don't use a lot of, or I don't use all of the mediums. I make weekly YouTube videos. I post them up on locals. This guy had almost nothing for a social media footprint, except for a Discord account, which he hadn't used for quite some time. You expect me to believe that a 20-year-old doesn't have it? Yo, MK Ultra, Jason Bourne. This is that level of shit, okay? I told you that Oswald did not work alone. That Oswald had ties to the mafia and through the mafia to the CIA. Oswald was in intel when he was in the Marine Corps. Lee Harvey Oswald, right? The guy who supposedly shot JFK. There's intelligence links and connections all over the place with that guy. This guy's parents are radical leftists. The mayor of the city is radical left, or is a radical leftist. Probably the chief of police too. Which means that he's probably, during that mayor's term, cleaned out that police department, right? Let's be real. A large portion of Donald Trump's normal Secret Service detail was stood down right before this event and replaced with temps. Y'all, this is a setup. Okay? The Biden administration last Saturday, hands down, attempted to assassinate Donald John Trump. Period. This is an inside job. Period. I'm calling it. I said it. Okay? That's exactly what it is. Period. Okay? All that stuff that I went through for 50 minutes the other day about the logistics and it not making sense and me having a suspicion that this was the case. Guess what? That's no longer a suspicion. You can call me a conspiracy theorist, whatever the fuck you want to call me. That is a fact. Okay? The United States government, with the help of the local government of Bethel Park, Pennsylvania, used a cutout from that community to do this. In essence, the Biden administration on Friday, as a fact, attempted to assassinate Donald John Trump. Period. Point blank, period. That is a fact. Undisputable fact. I said it. Just like the United States administrative government murdered John F. Kennedy in November 22nd of 1963. Just like the United States government used Sirhan to murder Robert F. Kennedy Sr. in 1968. Just like the United States government murdered Martin Luther King in 1968. Just like the United States government murdered Malcolm X. Unless Donald Trump wins the election, or if something happens to him, J.D. Vance, and they can get this administrative state cleaned out, we live in a democratic republic in name only. Let's think about this for a second. Everybody in the news keeps talking about our democracy, our democracy, our democracy, First of all, we are not a democracy. We are a republic who uses democratic means to elect our representation in the executive and in the legislative and locally in the judiciary. And those parties use democratic processes to enact, enforce, and interpret our system of laws. But we are a republic. And let me tell you something else that is a democratic republic in name only. Its initials are D-E-R-K. The Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Oh, it's in their name. You know what other nation claims to be a democracy? We call it the People's Republic of China, but its full name is actually the Democratic People's Republic of China. But see, they're republics in name only. East Germany, the Democratic Republic of Germany. The Democratic People's Republic of Germany. The full name of the old Soviet Union. The Democratic People's Republic. The Union of the Soviet Socialist States Republic, USSR. So it was considered a democratic republic. I think I screwed that title up. But anyways, yeah, it was the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. But it was, I got the name, I remember it now. The Democratic People's Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. That was the full name of the old Soviet Union. Not just the USSR. But see, we're supposed to be a democratic republic, a democratic representative republic. So when these people are talking about our democracy, they're not talking about my democracy or your democracy. Oh no. No. The government, media, military complex is talking about their democracy. The administrative state is talking about their democracy, not ours. Because what they have managed to do over time is to inch us ever closer, ever closer, ever closer. Slowly, 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 inch by inch by inch by inch, towards a North Korea, a Democratic People's Republic of Korea, towards a Democratic People's Republic of China. Do you understand now? Do you get it now? Democratic People's Republic of Cuba? Do you get it? Do you understand? Do you see it now? Wake the fuck up! Wake up! Yes, I just fucking clapped. This started back in the 1920s, 1930s. You know, actually in 1919. As fucked up as Herbert Hoover was, but one thing he did notice was the first Red Scare of the late teens and early 20s of the last 20th century. And it kind of caused him to overcorrect. But it really got underway under the fucking boomers in the 1960s till now. And they called Lyndon Baines Johnson a liberal Democrat. No, the fuck he wasn't. No, he wasn't. Ain't it odd that fucking both Nixon and Kennedy could not fucking stand that motherfucker? They killed Nixon. I'm sorry, they killed Kennedy. And if Nixon had to fucking resign after they did Watergate. Oh yeah, G. Gordon Liddy and them guys did that. They sure did. And Nixon tried to cover up his cabinet. Once he found out that it happened, that was his mistake. But they sure as fuck tried to play it. They did to Nixon like they tried to do to Donald Trump over the last year and a half, and he finally resigned. But if Nixon hadn't resigned, they would have killed his ass too. Or tried. Promise you. They didn't like Eisenhower either. Because he fucking dropped a bomb on the United States in 1961. Go listen to his military-industrial complex speech. It was already in play, but then it was taken over by the leftists starting in the 1960s under Johnson. But yet he sent all of us to fight communism in Vietnam. That was a ruse. That was a false flag. And if you really understand what was going on in North Vietnam, you would have noticed that was NATO's fault. Here's the fucking problem. Ho Chi Minh approached our CIA in 1954, not because he wanted boots on the ground. He just wanted our CIA to help him get the French the fuck out of his country. And Eisenhower's like, hey, I'll send you some advisors. The CIA refused to comply. So, Ho Chi Minh turned to the Soviets. That's the same CIA that fucking stabbed Eisenhower in the back in 1959 when they went to go work for MI6 and trying to overthrow the Iranian monarchy because he wanted Iranian oil fields to be owned by Iran, not by British fucking petroleum. Karl Marx lived in Germany. Everybody's like, oh, Karl Marx was a Jew. You know what? No, he wasn't. It's what they call an Edomite. Edomites are not Arabs, and they're not Jews. They're Semitic people, but they pretend to be Arabs or pretend to be Jews, depending on what cause they support. That's where a lot of these leftist Jews come from. Jewish people are a small group of people. Most of your leftist Jews aren't even fucking Jews at all. They're just playing the part. Okay? And Israel is the Jewish homeland, and we need to protect them. But I'll tell you what, there's a reason why the Arabs won't take the Palestinians in their country. You know why? Because they're not Arabs. They're not even Bedouins. And they're not Jews either. They're Edomites. They're neither. That's why Israel doesn't like them. That's why the Arab countries don't want them either. Because it caused problems for both. As a matter of fact, they caused so many problems for both that now one of the reasons why the Israeli and the Arab countries, even though there's some conflict between the way that they see the world, are joining forces is not just Iran, but also because of the Palestinians. Because you know who else has their borders shut to the Palestinians? The Egyptians. That's an Arab country, a Muslim Arab country. And they won't let those fuckers into Egypt neither. You know who will not deal with the Palestinians? The Jordanians. Won't let them in their country neither. Nor the Saudis. Fucking funny, ain't it? So it's not just an Israel problem. It's an everybody problem over there. But I got sidetracked. Saturday was a poorly covered up attempt at the deep state, the United States fascist deep state, attempting to assassinate Donald John Trump. Point blank period. They had a local connection with the right people there in town, and the locals just facilitated it. A lot of Donald Trump's regular detail was just put on leave and replaced with villains. That was a fucking setup from the ground up. That sheriff, that police chief, and that mayor knew exactly who that kid was. And they used him. That's the sad part about this. They used that guy. And then they killed him. Oh, that's right. Vladimir Lenin had a term for that. Useful idiot. He was a dead man the minute he took that assignment. Because if he would have killed Trump, if he was successful, which he should have been, they still would have killed him. Because dead men don't talk. How's that for an old saying? I was always told, if you want to keep a secret, tell your friend and kill him. There you go. The United States government, in collusion with the local authorities there on the ground in Pennsylvania, used a cutout to try to kill Donald John Trump. And here's the other side of it. They may try it again. And if they do, that is the one thing they want to do to spark a civil war. Folks, these things don't happen in a vacuum. These people don't operate in a vacuum. You know who did shit like this? Lenin, Stalin, Mussolini, Hitler, Mao, Kim, every single one of those guys followed the exact same playbook, and they're running it right here. It's taken them longer because we had a better court, but they're doing the same goddamn thing. Because what if that cutout met his objective? Everybody saw ratcheted up right now, we'd have instantly fallen into a civil war or some sort of internal civil conflict, and it would have been guerrilla style. Why? Because in red states, you have a bunch of blue people living there. In blue states, you have a bunch of red people there. Sometimes right next door to each other. You'd have had black people trying to kill white people, trying to kill Hispanic people, trying to kill Native American people, trying to kill whomever. They would have just gone ape fucking shit. And that's exactly what they wanted. Because even Jesus says, a house divided does not stand. Folks, we have a lot of work to do. But we are not going to pussyfoot around this anymore. That was your government trying to kill. Actually trying to kill. Donald Trump. Just like they killed Jack Kennedy. Do you understand? And they may try to do it again. That is my opinion, because I know now that is a fact. Period. End of story. So, I'm not backing down from that position. That is exactly what it is. You call me what you want to call me. Y'all have a blessed day. Good night.